All right, welcome everyone to tonight's Citizens Climate University. It's a weekly webinar program for Citizens Climate Lobby that provides CCL supporters like you and me with access to in-depth training opportunities on topics related to climate change and effective climate advocacy. And tonight we're lucky to have the topic be attending town halls and candidate forums. So let's jump right in. All right, attending an event. Let's jump in by just starting by talking about some definitions that would be helpful to understand. Town halls, what are they? Well, really, they take their origin from New England tradition, and attendees go there to voice their opinions and to really have the opportunity to meet their elected officials and ask questions. Now, on the other side, you also probably might hear the term candidate forum. Now, they're virtually identical to a town hall in their form and function, but with candidates instead of an elected official. And I think that's really the only distinction we need to worry about tonight with definitions of what we're talking about. So how do you find out about town halls? That's probably even a more important question. You can first off find out by staying apprised of events in having a good relationship with your district scheduler. It's a great opportunity to build that relationship by checking in with them, a couple of weeks ahead of recess, both in the spring and the summer, to see what they can offer about the recess schedule for the member of Congress and key aides that you might be interested in setting up a meeting with. And sometimes there isn't much advance notice. We all have had that situation. And the important thing is to check frequently during recesses or campaign season activities. Once per week is usually considered appropriate contact. But if you'd like to find out more, that's a wonderful first stop shop to finding out more information. Now, another wonderful resource that you can see right here is an actual member of Congress's website. Each one likely has a section labeled events. You can see, for example, on this one here, it says right under the About page, or something related that indicates when and where the member of Congress has scheduled events. And most every member of Congress has a newsletter as well that you can sign up for to get updates on their actions. Now, Representative Will Hurd, a Republican in the border area of Texas, his website's featured here as an example, and you can actually see kind of under the About option in the drop-down menu, both the Events tab is featured as well as this fun little DC to DQ 2017 tour link, which Representative Hurd is actually really well known for in the area for advertising well ahead of time where he'll be. And several of the past summer stops, for example, our CCL supporters were actually able to meet directly with the representative and begin that important conversation in person, face-to-face about prioritizing climate solutions. Now, outside of official websites, there's plenty of other wonderful resources, renaissance of other kind of private websites or public websites that are kind of being able to prioritize tracking these town halls across the country. Call to Action, Legistorm, the Town Hall Project you can see here. In the slide deck that accompanies this webinar, you can have a link to each of these, and all of them are other opportunities for you to kind of keep monitoring who might be available when in your area. And I'll lastly just say that Facebook and Twitter pages are also really good places to find out about when public events are happening for your member of Congress. For example, Facebook especially has recently begun a new initiative called the Town Hall feature to help constituents connect with their members. And for more information about that, we actually have a CCL social media webinar that's also linked in the slide deck that you can find out more information about. So once you've established that a town hall is actually happening in your district, it's probably important for you to determine your objective. What is it that you want to achieve? There's a wide variety of options out there for your strategy, and here's kind of a whole host of considerations depending on what your situation might be. First off, it might be easy enough just to encourage your member of Congress or your candidate to take the best possible position on climate change. You can ask them a question that links their strengths and concerns to our issue. You could also find out more with your question about your member of Congress or candidate's priorities by asking a general question on climate change or related issues on energy, environment, national security. And connected to that, you also might have the opportunity to educate that member of Congress or candidate and others who are present at the town hall by asking a question that has a key fact embedded in it, kind of sneaky. From there, you could also really create the larger impression, not by identifying as a CCL member, but as a member of the public representing that the audience cares about climate change. Now, this doesn't work if you already know the official, but it's important to highlight as an unknown entity if you're looking to demonstrate that this is a top priority for the district to address. Another idea that is always a good cause is highlighting and being positive in your interaction to create an impression that will last about CCL's organizing ability and identifying yourself as a CCL member with your question. Another great option would be to just establish rapport and build that positive relationship, right? You can, show up early and mingle informally during transition times. Staying late is also something that's worked very well for different CCL supporters. And you can just see to position yourself where the member of Congress or candidate is going to be, if there's a greeting line, or if you know that there is a chance for them during or after the Q&A to actually interact a bit more. Be strategic with where you locate yourself. And then the other wonderful thing is, be prepared for all possible outcomes. On one side of it, there may be too many questions and you might not have the chance to actually get up and ask yours. On the other side, there might be low turnout. And sometimes a discussion between you and the member or just a couple other people and the candidate can take place. And so really being prepared, if you get a productive conversation started, and if things are going well, consider asking if you can meet again to continue that discussion outside of the actual forum. So you can see there's a whole variety of ways to really kind of achieve different outcomes with your forum or your town hall attendance. But here's a couple of things to really emphasize, either really considering or avoiding. The first one of which is just really making sure to include with your question an appreciation at the beginning or the end, and offer some useful talking points for that speaker to pick up on. It might be tempting to embarrass some candidates, but this is going to be less productive than helping them find talking points that lead to solutions outside of the forum and giving them a chance to play well with the voters. Advanced research is really also helpful in developing your questions. Recommendation from the field is linking your question to something that resonates with that member of Congress or the candidate. For instance, if your research shows that employment is a key issue in the district, then frame your question around jobs. And the other key thing is to find out what committees your member sits on or what their pet issues are. If your research shows that national security is a priority, then reference a military official in your question for that trusted messenger status. If air quality is bad and asthma is a problem, reference the health benefits of clean energy or the solution of carbon fee and dividend. Now, on the other side of things, there's also important strategies to avoid. The first one of which is avoid speeches that are grandstands or that are disguised as questions. Don't just keep rambling on. Be brief and focused on one aspect and make sure that your point is gotten across. The other key thing is to avoid sounding accusatory. Anything that starts with, why didn't you, or I was disappointed that, we want to lead our members or our candidates to a better position, and we're unlikely to reach their hearts with that kind of a negative frame. Also, I think connected to that, it's really important to avoid prefacing questions with a long statement of how desperate the situation on climate change is, because unfortunately, most people tune this out unless there's also a strong message attached at the end that points to a solution. When inserting information on climate change, it's also really key to include references from local experts, and bonus points if you can even include them from a nearby university. Local is always more impactful than distant, and references as well to specific local climate impacts are better than faraway ones. So let's actually put this into practice. We've already talked about objectives. We've already talked about things to consider and avoid. So listen for which objectives might be being met by each of the following questions. Here's one that would be perfect for an establishment Republican candidate or member of Congress. Former Secretary of State George Shultz, who has served 4 Republican administrations, including President Reagan and Bush Sr., believes that a market-friendly solution is the best way to deal with global warming. He believes we should have a straightforward, simple fee on carbon emissions and send the revenue back to households in a monthly check. Are you familiar with Mr. Shultz's solution, and do you believe that this market-friendly approach is the best way to respond? If not, what is your preferred plan? You hear how that highlights several key different components all folded within one larger question. If this one seems more up your alley, especially if jobs are concerned in your district, let's try this one on for size. I heard a report that said a revenue neutral fee on carbon pollution could create over 2 million jobs. Exciting to realize that we could do something about carbon pollution that is good for the economy. If this carbon fee really helps the economy and really helps keep global warming in check, would you support it? What are your thoughts on it? And I think the other key thing to emphasize is that if you not only weave in a question to get their input, but also make sure that it can't just be a yes and no answer, but something that engages them with a longer, more robust discussion, that's key. So you can even add to that. All right, let's add one more sample question. All right, so this one is kind of a generic one that you can ask really in any congressional district. And I would emphasize noticing both the way it's bracketed at the beginning and the end. Thank you for being the kind of people who want to be a public servant. An important issue facing us is our energy situation. We need to cut our carbon emissions so we don't leave big problems for my kids and grandkids to handle. I don't think other policies are going to be as effective or as quick as a market-based solution. What can you do in Congress to help the United States be a leader in the transition to clean energy? I look forward to your leadership in solving this problem. You can note both the appreciation, the personal tie to one's family and situation, and really looking to that member to be your champion, seeing in them what you are hoping for their leadership in. Absolutely critical. We'll note that we have several other sample questions for a wide variety of situations. If you're interested, just go to Take Action and then click on Attend a Town Hall or Campaign Forum activity. But let's close with reflecting on some best practices from the field. All right, so the most important thing really is treat this like any other lobby or professional meeting that you're part of. You really get to increase your chance of asking a question if you sit up front, if you look pleasant, if you smile, if you dress nicely, all of that adds to your presentation. The other key thing to really boost your chances of having a question is to identify where the microphones, if they are located on a stand, are actually situated in the audience and sit near to it. You know, the other thing I'll just say, if you've attended these before, sometimes these meetings bring out members of the community who are very strident about an issue that they care personally about or very obstinate. And by being positive and a breath of fresh air, you can stand out and separate yourself and be memorable about an issue that you can help make more winnable for that candidate. Although these meetings can offer opportunities to move things forward, there's also situations, though, to really be aware of in which the meeting can become counterproductive. We want to avoid, like we were saying earlier, saying something that provokes a negative response from the crowd, though, as well, because that can discourage the congressman or woman or candidate from taking leadership on climate change. And we also want to avoid backing the member of Congress or the candidate into a corner with our question and creating a defensive reaction for them. We want to give them space, but we also want to offer them the opportunity to give their own honest reflection. Our goal is not confrontation in these town halls, but rather engagement. And if that's not possible, it's really important to be aware of that and choose not to speak or attend at these town halls as a useful strategy. And lastly, we want to just emphasize that it's really important to treat these events with the same kind of research ahead of time and diligence in your preparation that you would apply to a private meeting with your member of Congress. What are the concerns of the member of Congress or the candidate and your constituents? What kind of language and messaging will resonate with the audience in your district? There's no single question that's suitable for every group, no one size fits all situation. But it's really important for your group to meet ahead of time and really come up with these personalized objectives, questions, and messages that are suitable for your situation so that you can get out there and really be successful with these types of outreach events for your candidates and members of Congress. Thanks so much for being on the call tonight. We hope that you found this useful. And if you're looking for more information and stories from the field, we recommend you check out the Campaign Season Activities webinar. See you soon, everyone.